Hello YouTube, Byron at Splitting Slices. Welcome back to the Knife and EDC channel. Hey, today is Sunday, July 12th, 2026, and that means it's time for knife number 7 out of a 10-part series we're calling 10 by 10 by 10 Knives. Knife Chats with Tobias started this open tag series. You show 10 knives, 10 straight days, and talk about them for around 10 minutes. And I've got another slip joint knife to show you as knife number 7 in this series. And this is the club knife number 2 from Paddy's Potato Peelers, PPP, or as we also call the podcast he has weekly on Thursday afternoons. In the States, it would be around 2:30 Eastern Daylight Time. It is called Paddy's and Pals. Paddy's Pals, Paddy and Pals, something like that. Let's go with Paddy and Pals. That podcast, we talk about the PPP Club Knives when they are about ready to release to give everybody a couple weeks to get their checkbooks ready. You pay by PayPal, and the knives, once they are built by the Sheffield maker, Arthur Wright and Sons. Now that's Michael Harrison, Ashley Harrison, and Beth. Their apprentice, now a full-time knife maker assistant. Those three folks work on producing these knives, and they marketed them then worldwide to all of Paddy's pals who are interested in collecting traditional pocket knives with traditional patterns, carbon steel, and don't mind owning a Sheffield, England produced knife. The second knife we're going to take a look at, PPP Club Knife number 2, is what I am calling their Lanny's clip. Now, just a beautiful Barlow or Jack styled knife. I would call it a Jack just because, again, the bolster is not at least a third the length of the handle. You may call it a Barlow, you may call it a jackknife, you may call it a Lanny's clip because of that beautiful downward canted Bowie style clip point blade with that upswept tip. But whatever you call it, it is one heck of a cutter. Now this is made out of C70 high carbon steel. That would be an equivalent to the, say, 1070 carbon steel here in the States, and is made with these beautiful Lignum Vitae wood scales. Now, Lignum Vitae is used in the production of bowling balls because it is one of the hardest, most dense woods that you can have or use. And the Sheffield, England knife makers like to use the wood to produce a very hard, very tough, and lifelong handle for their knives. And so Lignum Vitae is highly sought after to use in knives such as this. On this one, we have a 3-pin brass pin construction. We have brass liners that surround this carbon steel spring. We have a beautiful head bolster of, I would call, nickel silver, but kind of has a slight brass tint to it, but again, nickel silver on the bolster. And then a beautiful clip point blade. And again, I would call this more of a Lanny's clip style blade. Okay, nice, almost not quite a harpoon. I would just call it, say, a crested spine. And then that big clipped swoop down on the front of the blade to an upswept tip. And then a little bit of belly coming down around the edge, and oh so slight a recurve back into the tang. We've got the triple shamrock leafed logo, PPP, for Paddy's Potato Peelers, which all the club knives are having the stamped tang on those, which I like. Let's go ahead and set this down. We'll go over some of the brief specs on the knife. Okay, so if we look at the blade, we've got just about a 2 3/4 long blade with a 2.5 inch cutting length. We've got, of course, that stamped tang. We talked on that C70 Bowie style or Lanny's clip upswept tip blade. Overall length of the knife is 6.5 inches, so you've got roughly a 3-inch long handle. Okay, pushing between 3 and 3 1/8 on that handle length. I would call this more of the Barlow style pattern, or an English Jack style pattern, with this bulbous but slightly downward slanted handle shape. All right, if we turn it over to the pile side, there is a look of this side. Beautiful wood grain and coloring in that Lignum Vitae. Takes a nice shade of stain, a little bit different colors depending on the grain running through the wood. No liners on this one, no G10 liners under the scales on this one. Just go straight to the brass liners on it. Okay, no stop pin. This is more of a traditional style knife, so all the blade movement control and stoppage is done by the shape of the tang and the kick on the tang. All right. Overall weight of this knife, I'm not quite sure. Let's go ahead and we'll pull the scale out and check them out. And all of the club knives are just about the same size right now, so you're roughly looking at a similar weight on all of these knives. Now, let me go ahead and just set this on an angle here real quick. I know you're not going to easily be able to read the weight, but it says 2.9 ounces, so just shy of 3 ounces. And I think almost all these knives are about that same weight. So you're looking at plus or minus 3 ounces on all of these. Now, the pulls on these, a little bit heavier pulls on these traditionals as you would get with some manufacturers. I'm going to call the pull on this one about a 7.5. All right, so I'm going to say this ranges from about a 7 to 7.5. And I have a heck of a time, I'll be honest, opening and closing this one. It takes a little effort, and there is a little more room on the spine when this one is closed to do a pinch grip, but I do rely on the nail nick on this one. And of course, we got a crescent nail nick that runs right there halfway down the blade up to the peak of the spine. All right, but this has definitely got a heavier pull. So if you're somebody that likes the heavier pulls on these smaller knives, you're definitely going to enjoy these, because I would say all of these knives so far, all three that have been released to date, have somewhere anywhere from a 6.5 to 8 on the pull. It's a little bit stronger, might be a little harder for some folks that have arthritis or nerve damage in their hands. These may not be for you, to be honest. None of them have been set up for like one-armed or one-handed razor openings. You know, they all have standard nail nicks, but some of them are pretty darn hard to open up. So keep that in mind if you are thinking about a club knife. And just listen to Paddy during the course of the future club knife releases to see what they rate the pull strengths at. And I think most of these, they have rated somewhere around between a 7 and an 8 on the pulls. All right, so this one is the Lanny's clip. I think if you like this style of knife and you can handle the pull strength on this, and part of my problem is when I get in the summertime like this now, when I get a little bit sweaty hands, a little bit makes it a little harder to open those knives up, right, with sweat. And I've also oiled the joints on these, so I got a little slickness on there too. So just something to be aware of. Be careful if you're interested in these knives. But I do enjoy the heavier pulls on them. That means they won't close on you if you go to make a slight push cut, or you go to make a penetrative cut, open up a bag of something. I've opened up bags of grain for livestock. I've also used it to cut bale string on hay. So it all depends on what you use your knife for, what you might want to go ahead and consider as far as the right knife for your job or the right knife for the task, right? All right, well, I think that's going to do it for me on this Sunday. Appreciate you tuning into the channel. We've talked for just about 9 to 10 minutes on this one. On our next knife, I am going to show that it will be the third of the 3 releases of the club knives, and we will get into that tomorrow for Monday. But until then, this is Byron from Splitting Slices saying split a slice with a friend soon. I hope you enjoy your weekend, and we will take a look at the third and final club knife on Monday. But until then, everybody, please take care.